Are we a minute early? I apologize.
No, we're okay. All right. Alicia Johnson,
Here.
Pamela Amer.
Here.
Diana Mendoza,
Present.
Blake Benson. And presenters, Jesse Mendez.
Here.
Barbara Bicklemeyer.
Present.
Brent Thomas,
Present.
Simon Holland,
Present.
Jen Bonzaraki,
Present.
and Cindy Lane.
Present.
And that concludes roll.
Thank you. Do we have any introductions? And even though she does not need an introduction, I would like to welcome Cindy Lane, Director of the Blueprint for Literacy and former Chair of VASC and board member here at the Kansas Board of Regents. And we're tickled that you could come in today and appreciate you giving us your time to update us on this important work. So
Very pleased to be here. Thank you.
all right, board consent items. Of course, we have on, oh, sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, okay.
First, we need to approve minutes. So I get my first demerit. That's of this meeting. That's not my first demerit of the day. So we will approve the minutes from December 2nd of 2025 and December 17th of 2025.
It would be all right if we take that in two parts. For the December 2nd, page, well, it says 3. It's the first page of the minutes, and it's going to be the second to the last paragraph. I visited with Provost Bicklemeyer because the sentence didn't make sense, so I'd like to amend that and for it to read, Regent Amar asked the surplus noted in the financial section of the proposal was for the hiring of new faculty, period, and delete the rest of that sentence. And so with that, that's my motion.
So we have a motion to amend the minutes as stated by Regent Amar. Do I have a second?
I would second that motion.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. So those minutes will be amended. And now we will take up both sets of minutes as an approval, and I would entertain a motion to approve the amended minutes as well as the ones from December the 17th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. The board consent agendas, we have a request to approve a BS in Applied and Interdisciplinary Studies. Provost Mendez, do you have any?
Thank you, Regent Johnson. At this point, I'd like to cede the floor to Dean Ben Wolf of the Olathe campus.
Good morning, everybody. Ben Wolf, Dean and CEO of K-State Olathe and the College of Applied and Professional Studies. We have brought forth a new Bachelor of Science degree in Applied Interdisciplinary Studies. It is in the packet. I'm going to turn it over to my Associate Dean, Darren Smith, to kind of walk through the rationale for the degree, and then I'll come back on for any questions. Darren?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dean Wolf. So the degree that we're trying to do is a degree completion. We're trying to be an advocate for a lot of students that are either in the pipeline through community colleges or those that have a lot of college degrees, but no real avenue to complete those. We're just trying to create a new avenue for that. We've had a very robust conversation with, especially with the University of Kansas. They've expressed some of their concerns in their letter, and I think we've addressed those concerns, and we had a really good conversation at the last Council of Chief Academic Officers, which I believe we alleviated those concerns. But we're trying to provide the service for as many students as we can, especially in the areas that are under our J-Cert. Dean Wolf can talk about this, but we do have specialized areas under our J-Cert board that allows us to offer things in advanced manufacturing, animal safety, health, and food safety and security.
One of the notes from Associate Dean Smith and working with the University of Kansas, we have agreed that this will live at the College of Applied and Professional Studies and will be serving students statewide. Therefore, we will not be seeking J-Cert approval specifically for this, although it doesn't preclude some of the J-Cert certificates being embedded in this, but it will be a standalone university-wide offered degree through our College of Applied and Professional Studies. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
So, any questions, Regents, regarding this, proposed degree in interdisciplinary studies?
And KU has worked that out.
Yes.
And my quick question was, so there will be no certification, it will just be
Oh,
BS or no?
no, so that, because this is a degree program that has programmatic aspects at the Olathe campus, there are other funding sources for this program, JCERT dollars from the JCERT authority, and we're agreeing that those dollars will not be used.
I
for this
got you.
program.
Okay, thank you
So,
for that clarification.
yeah.
Although as far as Dean Wolf mentioned, that there might be some certificates that might blend in,
I
that
gotcha.
would be supported by JCERT, so
Yes.
just making that distinction.
I understand. And this did pass unanimously through COCO?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure everybody was on board. All right. So I would entertain a motion to move the request to approve a BS in applied and interdisciplinary studies to the board's consent agenda.
So moved.
I would second and just mention that I appreciate the opportunity for students. You know, we always have a plan. This is what we're gonna do, but sometimes that plan doesn't work out. So to have an option for them if their plan doesn't work out, I think is a great opportunity for those that need it. So second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Guess there's no opposed. Everybody said aye. All right, next is the request to approve a BS in pharmaceutical and biomedical science. Gerwitz Bickelman.
Thank you very much. KU is proposing a degree in pharmaceutical and biomedical science. As you mentioned, we have on the line with us Dr. Mark Farrell, who's the Associate Professor of Medicinal Chemistry, who I will ask to provide an overview of the degree. Mark, are you present there?
I am present. Good morning, everybody. So this degree is a research-intensive undergraduate degree in pharmaceutical and biomedical science. It's really geared towards preparing students for high-impact roles in the pharmaceutical industry, the biotech industry, the development of diagnostics, and in healthcare professions. It's really based on a rigorous foundational STEM coursework, which will then advance to advanced coursework and research experience in medicinal chemistry, pharmacology, drug delivery, and pharmaceutical analysis. This really leverages the School of Pharmacy's internationally recognized departments, where there are research labs led by faculty who are federally funded and industrially funded. The students will be taught throughout by these same faculty and will carry out research under their guidance, which will provide an integrated classroom to lab model that is kind of unique to the region. Really, one of the goals of this is to prepare students for roles in R&D, quality control, and in regulatory positions, and also to make students highly competitive for advanced studies in science and healthcare professions. The degree really aligns with, I suppose, our burgeoning life science sector in the state, where we see many expansions currently underway. Just to really summarize, the whole point of this is to prepare students and propel them into high-skilled, high-wage life science roles that will not just strengthen their careers, but also strengthen the life science talent pipeline in the state. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mark.
Do we have any questions? It doesn't sound like we do have any questions. Thank you so much, Dr. Farrell. That was, it sounds like an excellent degree and something that apparently there's a lot of need for, so thank you so much. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the request to move to the board's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Thank you very much.
All right, the board discussion agenda, on this one now, and what we're doing is discussing this to move to the board discussion agenda. Trust me, they had to kind of drill that into my head, what we're doing here. So it's not really our discussion agenda, it's moving into the full board discussion agenda. And that is the request to approve a BS in cybersecurity. So Provost Thomas.
Thank you, Regent Johnston. This is a program that we put forward from Emporia State University. It's an area of great need, great workforce need, to address an ongoing and growing problem with cybersecurity that exists in every industry. The state of Kansas graduates folks in these areas, but if you look at the number of jobs that are available in the state of Kansas, we are not producing enough of them. And I believe that my team has worked very hard with the provost and their teams to try to put together a lot of collaboration as we build this out. And we're looking forward to that level of collaboration to fill these important needs for the state of Kansas. And with that, I've got one of our co-deans in the School of Business and Technology, Dr. Phillips, who is here to say a few words and answer any specific questions that you may have about the program.
Thank you.
Sorry. Hello. By way of a few words, I think he's covered the basics. I'm mostly here to answer questions as they come up and manage some dialogue. We have sent invitations out. We look at this program as really an opportunity to provide a tool set for the state of Kansas. So centralizing some conversation, perhaps centralizing some tools, and building a dialogue amongst our institutions to strengthen an offering to support some infrastructure needs in Kansas that are desperately needed at this particular point. We have some pretty high profile incursions that are happening because people just aren't trained and they don't understand problems that exist within this space. And we believe that if we can continue building this program in cooperation throughout the university system, that we can build something in Kansas that the rest of the country looks at and goes, holy cow, look at that. And we have the opportunity, the resources to do it. We just need to focus some attention on it and get the jobs filled. So that's the underlying philosophy and what we're trying to build.
Questions?
I have a question. So I know one of the concerns that K-State has is that it's duplicative. And so can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so one of the, and we've talked about this and has come up in the meetings, of course. So Wichita State is really what you would call the closest comparison to what we have across the corridor, which is a singular program. And then, of course, we have variations of a theme across, of course, K-State has a great program. The University of Kansas has a program that we change a little bit in the disposition of the philosophy underpinning them. So to put that in, I have a tendency to go a little, well, anyway, to put that simply, some of them are engineering based. Some of them are more practical based. We have some applied pieces, and we see that sort of philosophical and curriculum underpinnings across the state. Ours is, its underlying philosophy is it's industry driven off of certifications. We map it to industry certifications. And we've spent a lot of time building these mappings. So we're occupying the space that Emporia State often occupies really well, which is bringing in students, elevating them, and then giving them that sort of workforce initiative that fills seats. So yes, there is a little bit of overlap. We feel that we also have identified some niches and will continue that dialogue with that's part of that collaborative dialogue to say, all right, we're going to fill these particular niches. For instance, operational technology and critical infrastructure is its own particular place within the cybersecurity world. And, we're engaging and have the plans and are building the infrastructure to really kind of occupy that space.
And so is that a separate space? Sorry, you're gonna have to
Well,
really
there's
drill it down for me. I'm sorry. I could stand on this chair and it might still be going over my head. So I just want to make sure I understand the distinctions. Yeah.
It's kind of, all of the space occupies say, information technology, information systems, and computer science, right? So we're talking specifically saying, all right, we're going to go ahead and move this into a bachelor's degree in this area. So yes, is there conceptual overlap? Absolutely. Is there room for our institutions to offer distinct courses and build those courses to complement systems? We believe so. So I don't know. I'm not trying to dance around your question.
No,
It's hard not to dig really deep or too high.
so based, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just to provide some epilogue since then, I have engaged our college and faculty in particular in the Department of Computer Science. They continue to have reservations about the duplication, however, they're willing to engage. And so we now have the Department Chair of Computer Science will be engaging with the Florida State to have conversations about how we can kind of work together and be collaborative. So
Okay.
we continue to have reservations, but we're supportive of moving along. So.
And if I could add, so for the University of Kansas, we have two programs actually in the area of cybersecurity. One is in the School of Engineering. It is an ABET accredited program, which is much more heavily on the engineering and the science behind that. We also have a program in the School of Professional Studies, which is housed really in our Kansas City Edwards campus, and it is more workforce development program. Both of those have significant enrollments. And again, cybersecurity can be defined in a lot of ways, depending on if you're talking about that with police or just the infrastructure of information systems, or for example, not wanting to speak for Wichita State, but they have a huge presence in this with some of their federal relationships as well. Everybody has, because cybersecurity is so big, everybody has some role in it. Everybody has some kind of coursework related to that. The agreement, based on our discussions previously, was that there would be a sustained creation of a Kansas Cooperative Cybersecurity, what we call Research Center and Coordinating Council, where we can look at how we use our courses together, how we fit curricula across institutions, how we pursue federal grants together, how we convene annual symposia. So we're all coming together to do this to meet that workforce demand in the different places where cybersecurity plays. And that's some of the agreement that we've been engaged with, and our department chairs in those programs are really leading that conversation. So while I think I could say for all the provosts, we all see the huge workforce need, the importance of this to basic national security, the opportunities. We all have some interest in program in it. We do still have some concerns, but I think we can work those out. And this coordinating council is a sustained council that we will convene. And we will make sure that provosts continue to be aware of what chairs do in that regard.
Thank you. So it sounds like there's going to be room for everybody, and there'll be oversight, and it'll also help with the need for jobs.
Yeah, and I think to understand what course sharing we can do so that we aren't overly duplicating things, and we can partner and we can do it as efficiently as possible.
Sounds great.
Wichita State would be in agreement with that.
Okay.
I'm really excited about the potential for this and with the collaboration. I don't know, I'm going to the K Embry conference this weekend. Some of my fellow provosts, I think, may be joining me there. If you're not familiar with K Embry, that's a grant funded program that comes through NIH, comes through KU, and then out to the rest of the institutions. And that program continues to amaze me as one of the best examples of collaboration among institutions that I've been a part of. It is amazing. I would love to see our cybersecurity collaboration rise to that level and be yet another example of system-wide collaboration that we can truly be proud of. And I think there's a lot of potential for us to do that.
Thank you all for the explanation. I appreciate it.
I'm glad that we're here. Thank you.
Other questions? On my part, I would just like to say that I greatly appreciate the council and the fact that you all have come together in a collaborative way to work this out, because there's nothing more critical right now than cybersecurity, for our businesses, for our agencies, and for our institutions. And, that originally that's what I thought. I like the idea of collaboration. I don't know what that looks like. That's why we need you all collaborating, which is what you're doing because you're the experts and you can show us how this is done. And so I greatly appreciate that. And I think that this can be a model of how we can, collaborate on a program like this. And also from that, we can have a higher quality program and also more efficiencies in the state. And so greatly, greatly appreciated on that behalf. So it looks like we're pretty much in agreement that this will move forward. Okay. And we'll get any kind of concerns worked out. So thank you so much. With that, I would entertain a motion to move this forward to the discussion, the full board discussion agenda.
So moved.
Go ahead.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Thank you. Other matters, as we move through our agenda. Proposed amendments to the board policies on tenure, post-tenure review, and workload. VP Monholland, would you like to address that?
Sure, be happy to. We had some discussion at the board meeting in December. As I mentioned, at that time, we had just received some additional feedback, some from a legislator and feedback from the KU and KSU distinguished faculty. So we were asked to look at that feedback and see if changes could be made. And as we went through that, we did make some changes. I wouldn't call them wholesale changes, but I would characterize them more as adding clarifying language, adding some additional language to ensure due process and through appeals of decisions. So I'll just give a couple of examples. Initially, this may be the biggest change. The workload policy had automatic dismissal after 2 consecutive unsatisfactory reviews. We had feedback on that, and we changed that language to faculty who have 2 unsatisfactory reviews would be subject to not automatic dismissal, but subject to dismissal, reassignment, or other personnel actions. As I mentioned, we added language really throughout the 3 policies to ensure due process safeguards. That was a concern that came from several groups. We received, many thought the 1-year improvement plan was too short of a time to demonstrate improvement. We added some clarifying language, didn't remove that, but added language that plan had to have realistic and attainable goals that a faculty member could achieve within a 1-year period. Certainly not, finish up a 10-year project in 1 year. It would need to be reasonable. From the legislature, we did have some feedback that KBOR should be have oversight over the tenure process. The recommendation that we received is that the final decision on tenure should rest with the Board of Regents. That could create a lot of real challenges for the board. We added language, though, that would allow tenure decisions and post-tenure decisions, well, not post-tenure, excuse me, just tenure decisions could be appealed to the board. I think those are the main changes. I don't want to take time to go through and identify every single piece of language, but that's I think this was helpful. I think we did add some clarification in many places. and provided additional safeguards, tried to provide some definition without being too prescriptive. Again, I think one thing to keep in mind, what we really are attempting to do here is to not create a single policy that applies equally to every institution, but rather create a policy framework under which each institution can develop specific, the details can be added by the institution based upon the mission, classification and other factors related to the institution itself.
Thank you so much, Vice President Monholland. And I would like to say that I appreciate all the work that the provost, faculty senate, and everybody has put into this as we've tried to move quickly and make sure that we're providing a framework that works for everybody, which is, whether you're R1 or one of the regionals. And as you know, sometimes that can be a difficult process. We have taken input from a lot of different groups and trying to implement those as best we can to make sure that what we're doing is improving the process. With that in mind, there's a couple of things that we would like to talk about today in terms of changing before changing the policy under tenure and post-tenure. So not the workforce, but under tenure and post-tenure before we recommend that we move that to the board discussion agenda today. The first thing is actually on page 90. I think it's actually C8E4. It gets a little as this is, we go in here, but if you have that with you, it's page 90. And it talks about, as Vice President Monholland was discussing, it talks about basically the fact that if you get an unsatisfactory review, what goes forward from there. This is just a little bit of a cleanup, and we wanted to make sure that the faculty who do not satisfactorily complete the improvement plan are subject to an additional 1-year improvement plan and or dismissal. Well, I mean, it needs to say and or. It makes it sound like in that sentence they would have an additional 1-year improvement plan, be dismissed, reassigned, and other personnel actions. Does that make sense to everybody? So it should say and or. So after the first year, if you have an unsatisfactory review, then you would be put on an improvement plan. If that improvement plan then is not met in terms of the objectives listed in the improvement plan, then at that time you could be placed on another improvement plan. It could result in dismissal. It could result in reassignment. It could result in other personnel actions. We also would like to add that as determined by the provost to make that distinction in terms of what we're looking at. So I want to put that out there and would open this up for discussion with the regents and any others.
So that's just, we're gonna add that on to the end after other personal actions and then as determined by the provost, is that correct?
We felt like we needed to make sure that there was room within the governance structure to say, if you do not meet the requirements or the objectives of the improvement plan, that it could result in dismissal, but it only could. We're not saying that, after 2 years, you're done. But it also could result in another improvement plan. It could result, in additional personnel actions. So we felt like that would give it, actually we felt like that would give it the sort of judiciary action it needed to be, because obviously the experts need to make those kinds of determinations. And remembering that, for me, foundationally here is the fact that we're basing these annual evaluations on a work plan that has been put together and implemented by the faculty member and their supervisor, whether that be the chair or the provost or however that governance structure works. And so I think that's really foundational, that we're not just saying this is an improvement plan based on who knows what. No, this is an improvement plan if we go there, but this is an evaluation based on those criteria that were set forward with the faculty member involved, saying this is what is realistic for me this coming year, whether that's the number of hours teach, the amount of research, all of those things that are taken in consideration, given that very unique position that that faculty member may have. Are we in agreement?
I would agree.
We'll go ahead. Now, remember that these are recommendations that we're making then to the full board, and it will go on the discussion today. So that was one. The next thing is, if you will take a look on page 90, right underneath what I just said. So this would be CAE5. It says the faculty, now this is under post-tenure review, and I apologize, I think some of this is my fault. As we have looked at workload policy, tenure policy, and post-tenure policy, sometimes when we're talking about it, it can be a little confusing. Are we talking about something under tenure or something under post-tenure review? So when I look at this, this is under post-tenure review. It says the faculty member under review may appeal the post-tenure review committee's decision through an appropriate university shared governance structure. I would like to see that swapped with, on page 88, under C6. Here it says faculty may appeal decisions of the chief executive officer to the Board of Regents. And then any appeal to the Board of Regents pursuant to this subsection shall be filed with the Board Vice President of Academic Affairs within 30 days. I believe that this is better suited under post-tenure. I don't think that under post-tenure, if there's an appeal, what we would look at would be policies, where the policies and procedures, were they followed when we look at the post-tenure appeal process. We as board members don't think it is our job to look at whether someone receives tenure in terms of the context of how they receive that tenure, the context of, did you publish 1 or 2 articles, what is the subject matter itself? And so I would like to see that switched. So where it says it would be appealed to the Board of Regents would go under post-tenure. Does that make sense? Under tenure, it would say the faculty member under review may appeal the tenure, not post-tenure, but basically would appeal their tenure decision through the appropriate university shared governance structure, which I think probably meets what you already have in terms of the tenure review process.
That makes much more sense. I've
Is
served,
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
And I appreciate what you're doing. So on page 88, item number 6, we are moving to faculty may appeal decisions of the denying tenure through the appropriate shared governance committee.
Yes.
And then on post-tenure review, they can appeal that to the board.
And we believe that that would be more the board would make decisions on were the appropriate procedures and policies followed, not
Procedural.
whether someone actually should receive tenure or not.
Okay,
Basically lifting that whole paragraph
right.
and changing it to post tenure.
Yeah, I want one of them moved to tenure and the other moved to post-tenure, swap them.
I'm not
I need to work-
crazy. Yeah, I need to understand.
The
Actually-
current, the current policy says that the final decision rests with the
President.
chief executive officer and there's no appeals process.
right.
And that
On the post, we're talking post
No.
tenure.
No.
We're talking
So-
tenure.
So the
Oh.
one
Okay.
thing, so on page 88,
Oh.
if I think I know where you guys are going, where it says, I think it's decisions of the chief executive officer.
Mhm.
I don't think we want decisions of the chief executive officer being appealed by
No,
to shared
no,
governance.
Yes,
So really, if you just changed,
that's a good clear, yes.
Right.
Just leave that alone. We're not making any changes to that piece there.
You mean 6, leave alone?
6, yeah.
no,
No,
No.
we don't, no, because
no, that's where it's decisions on tenure of the chief executive officer are final.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I guess.
Their appeal process does come, there isn't, so if I may, in the tenure process, and I'll speak for KU as an example. That comprehensive review process is really a 7-level process that has, first, there's external review letters from people who have the same expertise and institutions are like, get 8 of those letters or so. They come into a department level committee and chair who make recommendations, and then a school level committee and chair who make recommendations, then a campus level committee and a provost who make recommendations, and then the provost is the final authority on that. And there are opportunities throughout that process for people, if votes at any one of those levels come in that are negative, people can write to that negative at that point. So they're basically appeals throughout so that everybody else is weighed in before a chancellor comes in and says, this is final. And so my concern would be if the decision of the chief executive officer, meaning the chancellor, the president, denying tenure isn't final at that point in time, the only place really would be to appeal to the board, but it would be better to have it final and then have the post-tenure review, because your point about,
Yeah, it would be final, tenure would be final at, remember that this is just a framework for all. And so what we want,
we
what
don't,
my intention is that the wording says basically based on your governance structure, that any kind of appeal ends at the university.
that's,
So
The
could we just
process
leave,
is there.
could we just leave the sentence that was originally there?
Exactly.
Decisions of the CEO.
We don't accept any of the changes.
Shall
Yeah,
be
okay.
final.
This is my fault. I don't mean exactly swapping out the word.
Right.
I mean, but you know,
Yes.
I'm,
and conceptually, we love what you're doing.
no, it's very important to get it correct though. And, you know, we've been working on a pretty short timeline. And, you know, as we have tried to implement input and from all, you know, stakeholders, sometimes it makes it a little more difficult. So whatever the wording should be, I think we need to leave the faculty may appeal decisions of the chief executive to whatever the governance structure is at your university. What we're saying is that tenure, the either approval or denial of tenure ends at the university.
And that is,
It does not get appealed to the Board of Regents.
May I suggest that our recommendation mean that we not make any changes to the current policy?
on 6,
On
on page
six,
88,
Yes,
6.
on 6.
Which
Yeah.
on 6 makes sense.
So,
And then you keep your language on page 90 is exactly what you said. The faculty member under review may appeal the post-tenure review committee's decision to the board for procedural
Exactly.
purposes.
But just, we're talking about leaving 6 the way it was before the latest.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanna make sure, cause we've had several.
so just remove the strikeouts and delete the rest.
Yep.
Yeah.
On 6. Okay, no, we just,
And remember, we have to do this before 1 o'clock, so.
yeah, no, that's why I want to be clear as mud. Got it, I got it.
Any
I got it.
other, yes,
Can I ask a question?
of course.
It's really specific to the medical center. We have had a very effective PTR process, but it is at the school level. There is never anyone from the same department reviewing a faculty member. And now we're dropping this back down to the department, which will be less stringent and more collegial in the review. Is there any chance we can carve out the medical center to allow us to use the school level for PTR as we've been doing since it was initiated? because this will turn things upside down at our institution.
So-
I see what you're saying. Do you think you can do that within the framework of how it's stated now, or we do need to carve that
Well, it
out?
says department, so then we have some very tiny departments, particularly in the School of Health Professions. May only be the chair who is tenured.
I just want to make sure if we can clarify where we are, because
Yeah, I don't know.
this doesn't affect, the two things you just proposed doesn't affect
No,
that
no.
at all.
Oh,
I was
okay.
just sitting in
Yeah, and I do
thinking-
think we have a carve out for the med center
on
That-
workload.
that on
That's
workload, and we could just simply lift that workload, carve out for the med center. And look at that possibly.
Under the post
Tenure
tenure,
review,
not tenure review,
Yes.
post tenure.
Yes,
it would be really helpful.
So Robert, I assume it's where it says the department chair shall form the post-tenure
Yes.
review committee?
Yeah.
Could we simply say the department chair or
The dean or
head
designate.
of the school or
Dean or dean
yeah,
designate, that would be beautiful.
that might be simpler than trying to
Yeah,
carve down.
Yes, dean and designate. I'm good.
Yes.
I think that's appropriate, because remember, again, we're not gonna be able to write policy. That's really up to the universities. We just want to have a framework that your policy can fit within.
Thank you.
And I assume that might be the same case, is that the same case with the best school?
It's all focused on the process, so I don't,
It's not the
can't think of-
same case with the best school. With our-
I think,
The language that you have right now is fine for our vet schools.
I think in other places we do make reference to the department chair or the appropriate division head.
Yes,
So,
chair.
I
Yeah.
think,
That's on page 90,
yeah,
E3, or just so people know, it's getting myself a little confused.
I'm sorry, department chair or,
Dean
I know,
or
I know where we are.
appropriate dean.
Thank you. Okay.
Does that,
Does that take care of it?
dean or designate, right? Okay. I'm not keeping notes, Sam, so.
Can I just,
Keeping notes on this one.
I just have a question. Does this take care of what the legislature wanted? Because what they were more concerned about is what's post tenure, correct? And they wanted it appealed to like the Board of Regents, right?
No, actually, the legislature was, the recommendation was in reference to tenure itself.
All right, well.
I do think that we're addressing it though when we address it through the post
agree.
tenure process.
I think that's better.
And I think we're trying to make sure that we're taking input from everybody, and we certainly appreciate the input that we got from legislators, and trying to implement the best we can and make it a workable policy, like I said, that's a framework that everybody, whether you're R1 or not, can fit into this framework, and we feel like probably maybe
Okay.
this is a more amicable way to put that under post tenure, but still addressing the idea that it can be, of course, appealed to
Right,
the Board of
in
Regents.
post
so,
tenure.
in
Okay,
post-
thank you. I just wanted that clarification.
I just have a question of clarity, I guess, in terms of when, if a faculty member appeals to the Board of Regents, probably it's more a question for them. What does that appeal process look like? Overall, has that infrastructure been built out, or is there?
I don't think it exists since this is new policy.
It just says it has to be filed within 30 days with whoever the chief academic officer of the board is, or I guess, board vice president for academic affairs.
And to be clear, it's procedural, on procedural.
Yeah,
grounds.
that's what I was gonna say. It has to be like that
Yeah,
because
it's on procedural.
we don't pretend to, I mean, that's not gonna be in our bailiwick to make those decisions.
And that's why I think it fits better under post tenure,
Right.
because we're just looking at procedural
Procedure.
things. We're not
Like
looking
due
at.
process.
Exactly.
That's what we're gonna look at.
Our attorney, thank you.
I think that's better, just what,
I
do they
agree.
get due process? Most,
And I asked that question looking at former Regent Lane thing, she's probably thankful and happy I'm not really,
Good read.
All right, so anything else concerning the amendments on tenure, post-tenure, and workload. I thank my fellow regents too for, we're trying to do the best we can to make sure, you know, that this is appropriate as we move this forward as a recommendation to the full board. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks to everyone.
All right, moving
So
on. Oh,
those
go
are recommendations then that I should present, or will you present that too?
ahead. How about you do it, Rusty?
Yeah.
You know, I thought we would, if we can get the language, we will go ahead and we will ask you to stand up. And obviously, I can help clarify as well as Regent Amar and Regent Mendoza in terms of what we want. And we would ask, and it is going to be the discussion agenda. So I assume that we probably will have some weigh-in from other board members. But if you could just set us up in
Included
terms
it,
of,
yeah.
And
I appreciate that.
I don't know because of the time constraint, but if there's any way we can read draft 6 and on page 88 to what we discussed, and then is it 4 maybe, or maybe, excuse me, maybe it's 5. I don't know. Then we may not have time, but I was just thinking then it could just be right in front of them and make it easier.
Yeah, we plan.
We're only looking at 2 pages,
Yeah.
and I think we can,
Okay.
I think I can make those changes and probably
If you could get it in written form and we'll hand it out, I think
possible.
that
If
would
not-
be helpful. Is that what I agree.
I know we have a time
I meant to
constraint.
say Sam and Jen can make those changes.
That's what we
Already
knew you
committed.
meant that.
Yeah.
They knew it too.
No, I think they're relatively minor and clarifying in nature. It's not like we're, you know, adding a whole new paragraph, so.
And also to address what's in 4 about the and/or.
About the way.
And/or on 4.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And,
'Cause I think
and,
that's important as well.
and then add
Yeah.
as determined by the professor, right?
Johnson, do you anticipate there might be other, this is I know kind of an unfair question. You anticipate there might be other discussion, recommended changes by the regents during the meeting?
I'm not
That's
sure.
your question. I
Okay.
apologize.
Okay. Because I know there were a couple of other areas that have been brought up as concerns, and so I was just not sure how to tackle those.
Yeah. I appreciate the question and I really don't know. As we have looked through this and tried to make sure that, you know, like I said, we're getting a framework that works for everybody and make sure that we're giving the respect that we need to all those that have input and trying to make something, like we said before, that allows for, I think, accountability. The accountability to me is the fact that we're reporting on this and that we have a baseline of you know, the work plan. And that way, you know, we hope that the data shows that this has been a very, very rigorous process from day one. And that's what we want to continue to do. With that, we feel like we have been able to hopefully add some things. It makes more work on you all in the reporting. It makes more work on the staff in going through that. But it also gives us, I think, the data that we need to be able to communicate to people what's really going on with tenure and post-tenure. Because I think that there's a lot of kind of urban legends out there about what's really going on. And without the information, without the data, it's really hard then to have dialogue, you know, when we really don't. You know, you can't have constructive dialogue if you can't, you know, agree that there's some facts here that we can deal with. And so that's what we're hoping for. Thank you. That's a kind of a long-winded way to put it.
Okay,
but
thank you.
Doing the best we can. But I appreciate the question. I honestly don't know.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Moving on, Jen, do you want to address the system-wide associate transfer degrees? Additions, considerations?
Absolutely. Thank you, Regent Johnston. So just as a reminder, we have 5 system-wide associate transfer degrees that we refer to as SWADs. The structure of these degrees were developed through faculty working groups that had representation from 2- and 4-year institutions. The corresponding bachelor degree programs that accept these SWADs were reviewed and confirmed by chief academic officers and subsequently approved by BASC. So I just want to emphasize that what we've seen this year is that really individuals at all levels are committed to working on these degrees, and the spirit and the intent of the work remains with that deep commitment. We want to be sure our students can transfer seamlessly right from our two-year institutions into these bachelor degrees. However, as implementation has unfolded this year, there have been challenges, and these challenges have been felt by both KBOR staff, the Transfer and Articulation Council, as well as our chief academic officers. Without going into too much detail, I'll just give you a few examples. So some are kind of benign right now. For example, there's no current policy or procedures to guide institutions in making changes to previously approved SWADs. And there's also no application window for two-year institutions to submit to offer these SWADs if they didn't already submit and be approved previously. In more critical cases, though, we've had instances where courses weren't approved for SWADs that are existing, and we have students enrolled in those existing degree paths. And so not having those courses articulated at the past October KCOG conference has caused some areas of concern for those students. We've been very fortunate, though, that institutions, KBOR staff have worked very collaboratively, and we've prioritized our students. So we've been able to reach resolutions that will address the individual student's best interest, but that's not a long-term solution. So TAC and the System Council of Chief Academic Officers have recently discussed these issues and some potential paths forward. Both groups recommend that TAC take on initial steps during the spring semester to identify key issues and policy considerations related to these degrees and what the appropriate body is to provide ongoing oversight. TAC co-chairs Sarah Robb and Scott Tonona will work with the council to carry out this charge and bring forward the result of that work to SCOCO for feedback first and then to BASC for consideration. What has been clear across all the conversations that we've had is that there is a need to identify a formal oversight structure for SWADs, one that works collaboratively with SCOCO and that ultimately brings recommendations forward to BASC. So what we're seeking from you today is verbal endorsement of this proposed path forward, and I'll repeat that, to charge TAC during the spring 2026 semester with identifying key issues and policy elements related to the SWADs and bring those recommendations first to SCOCO for comment and consideration, and then to BASC for consideration and ultimately approval as appropriate. Happy to stand for any questions.
Do we have any questions regarding? Again, I think probably that is very appropriate, as we do need some sort of oversight on those. I believe it's very important that, you know, especially those that are already in that path, be able to articulate that, but we do have to have some process of how any sort of, you know, confusion or, you know, regards to anybody having a disagreement about that is solved, so. All right. So I think, I don't know that we need a formal vote,
We
but
don't,
you
just
just have
verbal
our.
endorsement, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, on to something that we don't care about at all, reduced credit or baccalaureate. We've just got a lot of really important things on here today, don't we? Including, and I don't want to short
That's all right.
Dr. Lane, because that we really need to hear about that as well. So Rusty, how about some updates on the reduced credit hour baccalaureate?
This can be very brief. We met in December. We have a meeting scheduled for this Friday. At the December meeting, I drafted a policy framework. We had a good discussion around it and some other issues as well. But I've taken that framework and now tried to put it into a policy. So it looks more like a policy, and that's what we'll discuss on Friday. I was at SCOPS, and I know the two-year institutions have raised some concerns, which we will discuss as part of this process. One of the concerns dealt with doing this as a pilot program, but I got the sense from talking with board members that that was a way they might like to move forward. Do you share that view, or where would you stand on that
Moving forward after talking.
as a pilot program
Yes.
on a limited basis?
You know, we certainly can have the other two regents weigh in. I believe that that is the way to move forward. I think that there isn't a lot of history with this, and it's hard to find best practices or precedents set by the universities because it's very new. But it's also something that we definitely want to see if works, because I think there's a lot of opportunity here. There's a ton of opportunity for collaboration to meet students where they're at, you know, and to be able to, I think, provide, well, at least to help reduce the gap in terms of, you know, workforce development and providing those skilled workers that we need. And so for me, it definitely plays a role in that area, and something that we will look at. I know for my part, I would like to see it go through the regular program approval process, but some of the things we'll just need to suss out, but, you know, give a preliminary approval for 3 years and see if it's working, and if it's not working, and it can be a living document, and at the end of that, we can see. And I also believe that, you know, anybody can apply just as long as you show the appropriate requirements.
Well, and I believe you're going to join us on Friday.
I am.
Good.
And sorry about all the, poor Rusty, I was like, when are we talking about? This is a true story. We were working cattle. My job is to draw blood from underneath the tail of the cow to preg check them. I just want you to know, I've done about 200 now, and I'm getting really good at it. Even though my people do not appreciate me, that would be my husband and my son, but whatever. Anyway, poor Rusty, I'm like, when are you talking about? And but it didn't show up on my phone, Rusty. Then when I looked at it on my computer, it did say when. I thought I'd already missed it because it said 10 to 12. I'm like, I missed it. More information than you need. Sorry. But yes, I will be joining you on Friday, and I appreciate again all the input that we've gotten, because it is really impactful. And so we want to make sure that we're trying to get it right for everybody. So thank you. All right, next, sorry, Dr. Lane, we've taken so long. So please, if you would give us the update on the blueprint for literacy.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here and to be reminded of all of our alphabet languages. We were using different terms. I was reminding myself, but the really doing important work for the system. So I thank you all for that. Madeline has some slides to put up, but I want to start by saying that this work is important systems work. As I heard you talking about the cybersecurity system partnerships and the opportunities that our universities do, this is another example of work that's been done across the system that's very important investment by our deans, by our faculty, by K-12 educators, and families are all shaping and influencing, and our legislative partners. So Regent Mendoza, I want to thank you for your service to the advisory committee, and she can attest to the fact that we had a rather rugged start as we launched this project a year ago. Not as rugged as I can imagine looking at the tail of the cow and what you described, Regent Johnson.
Yeah, the underneath
But
tail of the cow.
it was rugged. It was a learning experience, but we have shifted into what I think is a very productive place. So I thought, and I want this to be about what you all need. But I thought what we'd talk about is what is the blueprint briefly? Why are we doing this? Some goals, and share some progress of where we are. And then if we have time, talk about forecasting some next steps. So Madeline, go to the next slide. Regent Mendoza, anything you want to add to that kind of history piece there?
I don't think I really have any additions, but I do want to thank you for all of your work, because it was rugged, but you you took us through and you've led that committee very well, so I appreciate your work on that.
I thank you. It's been interesting to have such battles over legislation that we didn't write, and we were just trying to respond to what was there. So we've learned a lot. But Senate Bill 438 is a higher education bill focused on what we can do to help improve literacy outcomes for our kids. And I'll show you the data in a little bit so you can see where we are. It was focused on post-secondary because frankly, our partners at the State Board of Education were hesitant to weigh into having a legislation around literacy because they have their own plans and processes. And so the bill, while it was designed originally to be a comprehensive bill for K through higher ed, it ended up being signed into law as a higher education bill. And it was really building on the work of our deans of our colleges of ed who were charged by the Board of Regents about 3 years ago to bring recommendations on the kinds of things that we should be considering to try to help improve literacy outcomes in our state. And so I think today the deans would tell you, be careful what you recommend because it's really kind of overtaken a lot of their work and they've been extraordinary in their leadership. But it's focused on workforce development and our role really is to think about how we are preparing educators in our undergraduate programs and then what we can do to support in-service educators through coaching, through coursework, through changes in graduate programs and those kinds of things. So if you go to the next slide, there are some very big transformational goals written into the law. And there was a lot of debate last session about the wisdom of putting goals in law, but in essence, they are there. So there are two goals. One is that 100% of the elementary workforce will earn a credential. The law actually says micro-credential, but there's nothing micro about learning to teach the science of reading and structured literacy. So 100% of our elementary workforce, which would include educators, administrators, early childhood folks, educators that work with multilingual students, paraprofessionals, and school psychologists, all required to achieve a credential in the science of reading by 2030. And at the same time, the state board actually put that requirement in place and move that timeline up to 2028. So the law plus state board requirements are that our elementary workforce has to have additional credentialing in the science of reading and structured literacy. And all of that would lead to at least 90% of our 3rd through 8th grade students achieving what is known as a level 2 or basic on the Kansas English Language Arts Assessment. And that 50% of those 3rd through 8th graders would be proficient in advance. So, and by 2033. So here it is, 2026, and we have these big transformational goals. We're well on our way to the training goal in partnership with the Department of Ed. But let me show you what the data looks like in terms of our progress for kids. There's a lot of numbers on here, but I can draw your attention to the last line that says all grades. The first two columns, the percent of students that are performing at level 1 or level 2. Let me pause a minute and say that level 1 means that a child has limited ability to read. Level 2, now clarified by the state board, means that they have basic skills in reading, but they are not fully proficient. So if you combine level 1 and level 2 numbers, we have 45% of our children in Kansas as of 2025 that are reading below proficiency in all grade levels. So the good news is, they're reading at proficiency. We have 55% of our children who are reading below proficiency. So I want you to let those numbers sink in a little bit. 55% of our kids have basic skills or limited skills in reading, and that's in grades 3 through 8. Think about the impact that has on their matriculation into higher ed and the ability to pursue technical jobs and careers. So the the number on the far end that says 90% level 2 or higher, that shows that, okay, our goal is 90% and we have 71% of the children that are at least at level 2 or higher. So we have about a 20% gap that we need to close. Now, some would suggest this is an urban issue, but it is not. The red dots show all over Kansas the number of districts that have 40% or more children reading at levels 1 and 2. It's not a public school issue. These are private school numbers as well. It is an everybody issue. But it's also not just a Kansas issue. I didn't put the data here, but we are in the same spot that the majority of states are across the country with a few exceptions in terms of the challenge here. So I want you to think a little bit about our job as workforce, and we need to be preparing educators with the skills that they need in order to make these numbers change and frankly help every child learn to read. So if someone asks you what's the blueprint about, it's about empowering teachers so every kid learns to read. That's what we're trying to do in partnership across the state. So questions about that before I share with you where are we? And Madeline, you can go to the next slide. But, any questions about why we're here and the data? Provost, feel free to jump in with your questions too. Any reactions? That data surprise you, or is it what you thought? Or?
Oh, I see.
I see it every day.
Yeah, you sure do. Okay, so we've done a lot in 12 months, and so instead of trying to put a lot of stuff on slides, you've got this 2-page summary, and forgive the kindergarten layout here because I took on putting this together, and so I tried to make it as engaging as possible. So we have a strategic plan, and last spring, the advisory committee shifted to developing a strategic plan that has a clear vision, clear mission, and of course, the goals we articulated. And so Regent Johnston asked to kind of update on some of the things that we're doing. So I want to focus your attention to the key strategies that are in the center of this document. The law was passed in April of 2024. It was required that we started the blueprint work in July 1st of 2024. And the universities were required by August of 2024 to reshape their undergraduate courses to ensure that there was a focus on the science of reading and structured literacy with an application lens. So I wanted to stress that, particularly with you regents, because the universities had 1 month, in essence, to revise programs. Now, the good thing is our universities have been teaching the science of reading and structured literacy for some time now. The change here is that the focus is on helping our undergraduates actually learn to do something with the knowledge, to apply that knowledge. So the universities turned around revised courses put in place in 1 year. So that's the first thing that they did, we were able to do under the educator prep. Legislators did not have confidence that we would be responsive. And in the law, they put significant financial penalties to try to motivate. But I have to tell you that the faculty didn't need the penalty. They stood up and said, let's work together. So in the spirit of collaboration, the 7 public institutions, we include Washburn in this work, individually revise the courses, but in common have a common performance assessment that everybody uses to help determine whether or not our undergraduates are developing strong skills and applying the science of reading. So that was a really big deal, but it was done in 30 days. So that shows you the commitment of our staff. We've done a curriculum mapping review of all the courses at the in the elementary education program, and I'll show you a little bit about that data. And each institution designated that they would only be teaching the science of reading and structured literacy practices. That center box is really where we spent a significant amount of energy, and that's on developing a course that courses that would help our teachers who are already in the field strengthen their skills, and we call that course Foundations. It was developed in collaboration of our 7 literacy lead experts across the public institutions. And the thing that makes this uniquely different than other offerings that are on the market that publishers put out is that it is content, but it is application driven. And so the in-service educators who enroll in the course are expected to apply what they're learning back in their classrooms, and the institutions provide coaching support so that we close that gap between theory and practice with the coaching. You can look further down on this document. We have scholarship funding in our current budget for a little over 1,700 Kansas licensed educators that covers the graduate tuition. We pay them a stipend of $500 when they successfully complete the course. And so right now we've had, since the course launched in May of 2025, we've had 511 educators complete. We have another 325 in process, and we have allocated to the universities about 900 more scholarships so that there's plenty of opportunity for teachers. On the second page, and it takes you to the second page, in that little green box, you can see some remarks from the educators who've taken this course. It has had a significant impact on educators' skills and confidence who've gone through the course. And so we're feeling really, really good about that work. And I think it is an example of the power of the higher ed system to be able to help the workforce strengthen their skills. So again, that foundations course, developed in collaboration across the institutions, provides coaching support and is a really meaningful, transformative opportunity there. We follow that up with coaching even past when the students are in the class. We have some universities who are actually following students who've completed the foundations course and continuing to provide coaching to help continue to build their skills. In addition to that course, K-State has developed micro-credentials in adolescent literacy and in multilingual learning. So we've had educators that are completing those stackable credentials as well. And each of the universities, if you look again on the second page, you can see a list of the kinds of really innovative approaches that each of the universities have put into place. Fort Hays, for example, is out in their very large catchment area providing professional learning and coaching. Pitt State has a coaching network where they're in several of the elementary schools on a weekly basis helping educators. And so you can see the numbers of things there. So we've been focusing on what do we need to do for undergraduates? How do we help educators who are already in the field? And then what do we need to be thinking about next to really help build capacity of not only classroom teachers, but building leaders, et cetera, beyond that. We have a partnership with the independent colleges as well in some of this work where they're actually providing the foundations course. And so we're trying to make sure no matter the choice the educator makes of where they get their professional learning, that they have access to quality. So I'm going to pause again a minute and see what questions you might have about what I've shared so far.
Dr. Lane, I do have a quick question. So it looks like we have 1,700 that have completed with another 836 in the pipeline.
1,700 scholarships allocated to the various universities. Right now we've had 511 complete, 328 students who are already enrolled. And so we still have some opportunity for the spring and summer terms for additional participation.
And that is at a cost of close to $4 million.
Right.
So how many more teachers do we need to gain this certification and meet the criteria?
Great question.
And what is that going to cost as we try to advocate to make sure that we have the money to be able to provide this really critical training?
great question. So we're doing this work in partnership with KSDE, and you may be aware that they've been offering a training called Letters, which is foundational knowledge. It does not have the coaching piece built into it. But so we have 18,698 elementary educators in the workforce, not counting paras, who require the certification according to both the state board policy and this law. And in combining what they've done in Letters and what we've done, we've trained about 9,000 of those 18,000 educators. So we're halfway where we need to be to our goal. So the strategic plan that the Blueprint developed has a fiscal ask of $8.6 million tied to it. Now, that's for training, but it's also for helping faculty reshape courses, thinking about how do we expand those micro credentials that I mentioned and that kind of thing. So it won't all go into this same bucket, but we can do a lot to help provide really rigorous experiences with 8.6. Now, the long-term goal is to have a plan with KSDE that is a pre-K through higher ed plan and provides reading specialists in every elementary school and much more coaching. But that's beyond our current allocation.
Thank you.
Other questions? Let me take you to a couple of the sub-projects that we've been working on, Madeline. If you go to that next screen. I don't expect you all to be able to see that, so I made some copies. One of the things that the law required and that faculty led was that curriculum mapping review of elementary education programs. And these pie graphs are a summary of what's in that report. And what you'll see is that our universities have a very balanced approach to the workforce development. There is strong knowledge, strong assessment happening in the various areas, and a strong focus on the assessment skills. There also is field experience, and the field experience is noted in the orangish slice of the pie. So our current conversation with the advisory committee and with faculty is, how do we strengthen clinical experience so that there's more opportunity for educators to really deepen their skills while getting support from experts in the area of literacy? And so you can see that the dominant method currently in the undergraduate program of informing is lecture. Now, the faculty would be disappointed if I didn't qualify that lecture doesn't mean that someone's just standing in front of the room and talking to people, but it's classroom activities. But we're now having a deep conversation about how to strengthen clinical, and that'd be an area, Johnston, that we might want to come back on the agenda to talk about how do we provide more opportunity for intensive literacy clinical without exceeding the 120-hour cap for completing a degree. And then what do master level clinical experiences look like? A survey was conducted by KSDE to find out what we're currently doing, and educator prep programs, including our institutions and the independents, reported anywhere from 3 hours of practicum experience to 120 hours in the field. And so the advisory committee is working to kind of, first, you can go to the next slide, Madeline, define what we mean by a clinical experience and starting to talk about how do we have intensive clinical that may look at like a 3 credit hour clinical experience where an educator is getting support while tutoring a small group of children, and that clinical leads to additional stackable credentials in structured literacy. So I know you can't see that, and I apologize for all these handouts, but I wanted you to have the info. This is a draft of what the advisory committee is working on that would establish common language around clinicals, and then our plan is to send it out to the field to get feedback. So we have a lot that we've accomplished so far. We've had some success with the training. We are trying to continue to strengthen our programs in partnership with KSDE. But there's much more that we need to do. I think we've had a lot of successes, and one of our big opportunities as we are in the new legislative session is to help our legislative partners understand the return on the investment for focusing on this work. So, all right, that was quick as I could move, Regent Johnson, to give you an overview, but I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
That was great, and I appreciate this. And definitely, when we get further down the road and you feel like it's necessary to come back and talk about the clinical experience and, you know, what you have developed and how we're moving forward there, I think would be good.
Great, and perhaps we can invite Dean and a couple faculty
Yeah.
representatives to join. That'd be wonderful. All right.
Bridget Mendoza, have you got anything to add?
Yeah.
What's the next deadline?
Well, we have funding to continue this great work through the end of this fiscal year. If we do not have success in appropriations, then we'll have to, as a state, be thinking about how we're going to ensure that teachers have the skills they need to teach every kid to read without resource. But I'm confident. We're in a very different place with our legislators today than we were last session. And I think, and the governor is recommending $8 million for the blueprint in her budget. So I think we'll have some success getting the funding.
Will it be a little awkward for the legislator to have a Senate bill and then not fund it? So
That's right. And to take a look at that data and realize that we need to do some things differently if we really want kids to be literate. And that translates into the adult population. There's a national study that 51% of the adults in the United States are functionally illiterate. So we have got to find a way to turn that around.
thank you.
Let me just close by thanking the provost. Your deans have invested a lot of time with me. And I know some of them have been weary of the blueprint, but they're doing amazing work. So I thank you all for that.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay,
so
you're
much,
welcome.
Dr. Lane. Greatly appreciated. All right, academic affairs updates.
I don't think we have any. I'll get to spend one more meeting with you lovely people before turning things over to Dr. Bondraki. We have begun the search for her replacement for her current position and should have some news probably before the next FAST meeting.
Excellent. Our next FAST meeting is January 27th. That will be a virtual meeting. And we will, of course, will get hopefully in print those changes that we wanted to make to tenure and post-tenure policy. We could get those to hand out to the board when we do that. Okay. All right. So with that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.